All right, today we're training. Should you go for more weight or more sets? I think the three most important things for growing your arms are, I get a ton of questions on how to develop a mind-muscle connection. Please go through a full day of what you eat. It's not gonna help you. As long as you're eating in a surplus and you have the right macro percentages is all that matters. The fact that I'm eating protein pancakes isn't because it works, it's because I'm an asshole. In terms of warming up, I don't have a specific exercise or distraction method that I do. I just ease into it. If you're under 30, you don't understand this yet, but one day you will. If I start out with a close grip bench, my elbows would explode. Good news for me, most of my favorite exercises and the ones I think are most beneficial are on the cables. Also, I'm gonna be in Austin the next 2 weeks, so if anybody wants to get a workout, reach out and I'll be sure to come up with a good excuse of why I can't come. And I know this is gonna sound dumb, but I'm actually excited to film this video because it's hard for me to program my arm workouts. There's so many changes I make to each exercise that it might start out with one variation, but by the end of it, it's unrecognizable. 2 sets like this, 1 set like that, 3 sets like this, you'll see. I started out with 2 sets, 30 partial reps, but at length. You can see as I go into the stretch, I'm not just relaxing it, I'm actually forcing my bicep into a curl so I can stretch even more and put that tricep at length. It's one of my favorite ways to start because it's an instant connection, but also does create some distraction in that elbow, which starts to grease things up a little bit because I'm old. Next, going right into what I would still consider tricep extensions, just avoiding the big mistake that everybody makes, which is trying to push out or kick down, probably because it's called tricep extensions, but in reality, you should be flexing over top of your elbow. The moment you start thinking about your elbow as the fulcrum point and you flex over top of it, the moment your triceps will cease to suck. Another thing you notice is I really step away. That creates a better angle to pull from. If you're too close, you're not gonna get it. It matters how you fail. It's important you don't just try to force the weight down. Finishing the contraction doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? I'd rather you fail in the negative portion, barely get the weight down, and that's it. Hey, look, we haven't moved and I've already done 100 reps. I've had some people ask me my thoughts on, should you go for more weight or more sets? Great question. There's actually a good meta-analysis on this if you have no life like me and you want to read it. My 2 cents on it, especially when it comes to arms, it's always better to add sets than it is to add weight. Most people's form will go to shit the moment they try to chase a number. My favorite is when you see somebody doing an overhead extension like this. Oddly enough, that might work for somebody who has great arm genetics, but not you. It wasn't until recently that I started looking at progressively overloading, not just in terms of weight. You can do it by adding sets to a workout or by adding an entirely new day, say 2 arm days per week. Now that's excessive for most people, but if your entire existence was just bent on getting big arms, then doing arms 2-3 times a week would get you there faster. And I know some people are gonna say, what about overtraining? There's a term, I think it's MRV, maximal recoverable volume. When it comes to arms, yeah, if you did legs 3 times a week and you actually train them to failure, you're not gonna recover in time, but your arms are resilient. Think about your younger self. That one forearm that you masturbated with 10 times a day ended up getting bigger. The one you did not use, did not. Moral of the story, your arms can take it. The threshold for arms is a lot higher than it is for legs. Good thing I'm the only member of this gym, or I would hate me. I sound obnoxious when I train. But you've told me, I know, thank you. Also, you're gonna notice on these, I don't lock out, which I'm not against any team full range of motion. That's probably a good recommendation for most people, but my training over the years has evolved and I find myself manipulating exercises to really put as much time under tension when a muscle is either at length or that optimal myosin-actin overlap. Again, that's more gobbledygook for I don't lock out because it's less beneficial. One last note on these, biomechanics matter. If you have shoulder inflexibility and you can't keep those elbows tucked in and flex in the right plane, you can't do these. There's no reason to do these, I should say that. You should do a single arm variation. That way, if you have to tilt your body of your turn, you can find what works best for you. Because this is not good. If I see you doing that, I'm gonna walk up and flick your little chode. The way I like to train arms is I like to jump from triceps to biceps back and forth. And it might seem like we just did 3 tricep exercises, but in my head, I kind of categorize that as one thing for triceps, and I'll probably do 2 or 3 variations for biceps. And I know most people wouldn't want this much variation, but it's always worked the best for me. I get bored, and it works. Shut the fuck up. Now you might notice me laying over the bench awkwardly and squirming around like I'm on heroin. That's because it might not seem like much, but that little tilt back allows me to manipulate the length tension curve of the exercise. Typically with curls, your arms are straight down by your side, so the hardest part of the contraction is that midpoint you're working against gravity. Obviously, we love the preacher curl because it has an angle to it, which is gonna change our joint angle, which then also is gonna change at what point in the movement we're gonna have peak tension on that bicep. What I found is even just slightly leaning back shifts the tension even more into the bicep when it's at a longer length. So try it. Don't hurt yourself, but try it. Some dumb kid's gonna do this. Don't do this. I don't see a lot of people talk about training their brachialis, which is a lie because I don't watch anybody else's content anyways. I think it's a very underrated muscle because of how thick it makes your biceps look. It gives it that 3D round fullness, keeps you from having those skinny little thin bitch arms. I can already hear people complaining now. I can't do this in my gym because I'm too embarrassed to drag a bench across the gym, but you'll sit on the floor Indian style and watch a girl do adductors for a half hour. I get a ton of questions on how to develop a mind-muscle connection. If you can't develop one with arms, then you definitely are screwing things up. Either your form is awful and you have some secondary muscle jumping in, like traps for triceps, or you have some sort of structural issue like imaginary lat syndrome and you can't tuck those elbows in. I think it's a very easy fix though. You just have to find exercises that work for you or put training wheels on. A kid I saw at the gym the other day was using a booty band like this and I thought maybe he's just trying to get a good whiff. I don't know. We all have our thing. But it was actually kind of brilliant. He knew that when he did skull crushers, his elbows would flare out and he wouldn't connect with it, so he threw a booty band on. And he definitely smelt it, little pervert. And that way, all he had to focus on was flexing straight down. His elbows were obviously gonna try to kick out, but they can't. At this point, you're stuck. You have your training wheels on. You're good. Now, I don't need it, but if you do, it's okay to use something like that to get your mind and muscle to connect and train itself to go on the right path. If you pay attention on these, you'll notice that each set is slightly different. I start with my elbows elevated, and then by the last set, I'm all the way tucked in as much as I can be. It's a very short range of motion, but that tricep is fully stretched and in a lot of pain. Fuck my life. Also, when it comes to a mind-muscle connection, there's no shame in pre-exhausting. In fact, on these, one of my favorite ways is to flare my elbows out and do a nice little press down and then go into the motion. You're gonna look dumb, but it'll feel horrible. It's probably hard to get a scale on time watching a video like this, but my rest times are like 60 seconds. So a lot of times I have to drop the weight because I got my ass kicked. That's okay. Disappointing, but it's okay. You suck. Oh, look, more cables. With these, I'm gonna start out with a supinated straight bar curl. But you're gonna notice, like what I did over there by leaning back, with this, I'm just gonna tuck my elbows in further, drive them into my stomach, and that way the angle of my arm is already set up that way, and the cable itself will take care of where the tension's applied. Constant tension. That's why we like cables. And I know some people are gonna be confused thinking that's a lot of cable work, but in reality, my favorite thing for arms are cables and machines, and then free weight. Because as I've shown you before, you really gotta manipulate and change your form to get that same length-tension relationship, which made me realize that I need more machines. I don't have one bicep machine here. I think the three most important things for growing your arms are have a dedicated day, so just biceps and triceps. Focus on reps, not weight. And when you want to progress, you overload by adding sets. Next, guess what? We're staying here. More cables, this time reverse grip. I have an entire routine that I run through on forearms because they are so small and dick-like. If you want, we can run through that in another video. We don't have time. I'm hungry. So how would I categorize this exercise? I look at it like a long head of the bicep and forearm. You'll know when you do it because it's what gives out first. Both. They both gave out. After all that, now my wrists and elbows are warmed up enough to close grip bench. Recently, I've been doing these a lot where I flare my elbows out to the side, I hang off the bench because for me, it doesn't mess with my shoulders, my chest, really just stays in that tricep. I'm able to create a nice angle on that arm. And most importantly, it's really effective at targeting that lateral head. I just came across this Brett Contreras post. Please stop starting every post with stop doing, maybe I'll stop. Or maybe I ain't ever gonna stop. Oddly enough, the only exercise I like to throw some weight around on is a concentration curl. I know, dumb, right? Probably because I'm mostly focused on the eccentric part of the lift. I still make sure it's a decent contraction, but here's a breakdown of the workout if you want to do it yourself. I'll also put a free version in the app so it's easier to follow, because whatever. And again, if you haven't bought one of the 4 new programs, they're all only $20. You keep lifetime access, and it goes to a good cause. It helps me feed my 13 dogs and my thick wife. Also, comment below a good gym in Austin because it's my happy place. My arms are the sorest they've been in a long time. That kind of sore where you're afraid to straighten them all the way because something bad's gonna happen. So if you're new, do not do this workout. You will die.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my